Hey guys, so I'm back. I don't think I need this lamp anymore. I figured out why my camera was being all funny. So, anyways, I'm back. And so I'm in the process right now of uploading one of my videos on YouTube. It's a video of me tacking up Hagen. So, yay, by the time this is up, that'll be up and this part will be pointless, but I don't really care. I'm just trying to open up and like talk to y'all and not be weird because I'm naturally a weird person. But I'll get there. So anyways, I already did the first video, which was me getting Hagen ready for a ride. Now, as I said in the description box, I don't know if y'all are actually reading the description boxes or not. What does that say? Oh. But, so as it says in the description box, there were other people in the barn, and since I'm fairly new to the barn, I'm kind of iffy on like doing videos in the barn because I don't know what these people are going to think about that, and you know, I kind of want to be accepted, but I really don't care at the same time, but I really want to be accepted since I'm going to be here for a little while. And so anyways, I didn't get the part of me grooming Hagen, or normally I will put my back on track hawk boots on Hagen while he eats, and as I'm grooming him and tacking him up and everything, so he'll have them on for like an hour before we ride. And so I didn't get any of that. I really just got the videos of me like putting his polo wraps on and his saddle and bridle, and that's really about it. And because he's rubbing all over me, this is my baby. Come here. This is Loki, my cutie pie, the handsome boy. So the topic of today's video is what you and your horse should know before you get started on a pattern. Now, a lot of people think that to really learn the pattern, all you really have to do is repeat it, which, I mean, technically you can, but it's going to be a lot harder and it's going to be more frustrating, and it's really just not a good way to start the pattern. Like, so, oh gosh, I don't know how to explain this. So there are certain things that you and your horse need to be able to do as a partnership to make this pattern less frustrating for you and the horse, because you know, you get frustrated and you're getting frustrated at your horse, and your horse is going to get frustrated because he's doing what you're telling him to do, but he just doesn't quite know how to do it yet. So these are just a couple of things that really help. Not really help, but you really should know before you start any type of pattern, barrels, poles, any speed events, anything like that. You really just need to know these. So of course, your horse needs to know how to move very softly and nice off just a little bit of leg. You shouldn't have to really push your horse forward into his forward movements. That's not how it should be. And as moving forward, he really should know how to calmly stop. You shouldn't need to hang on the reins. You shouldn't need to yank back or seesaw or anything like that. You should be able to just kind of give a little, if anything, a little bump of your reins and a nice deep seat into your saddle, and your horse should start to stop. Now, I'm not saying that they need to actually, you know, be like, woo, and stop. No, they just need to really respond to that and start to slow down and maybe process it. As long as they are processing that little subtle movement of your reins and of sitting back into your saddle, and they're really slowing down into their stop, that's fine. They don't need to stop immediately. Now, as I go through this, I'm going to tell you how it kind of helps throughout your pattern. So that last thing that I was just telling you about, the stopping and the going forward, so when it comes to your pattern, I'm just really going to relate this all to barrels, not really, well, some of it's going to be related to poles. But so on barrels, as you are driving into your barrels, you are really pushing your horse forward, which is not really going to be that big of an issue unless you've got some crazy push style horse. I mean, there's some like that. But when you get towards your barrel, it's going to be a very slight bump back on your reins as you sit really deep into your saddle and drive your butt into that saddle and ask your horse to sit his booty down. Now, normally that shifting of weight back into your saddle tells your horse, oh, okay, that means it's time to slow down, as in barrels, it's called rating. So you're going to sit back, he's going to sit back, and as he sits back and I'm going to get next in the other part, but that's how your very subtle cues for stopping really plays into your barrel pattern. So another thing that actually is pretty important, and this relates to a lot in poles, but it's really good for barrels, but this comes into play huge in poles, is leg yielding. So not necessarily side passing. There are many different points on your horse's sides that you would ask your horse to yield or move off your leg. So at a standstill, you want to be able to yield their shoulders, which you just kind of put your heel. God, I don't even know where to like pinpoint these parts. I just know where they are on my horse. I mean, every horse is different. Depending on the training they had, they are so different on where their little pressure points are. Oh my God, this cat's crazy. But anyways, so he should be able to yield. So whenever you push your foot into him, spur or no spur, if you have a spur, you don't want to have to jab him to move him over. I didn't struggle. I mean, I did. I don't now. Hagen, when I first got him as a 4-year-old, he was trained in a junior cow horse bit and some spurs, which all he really knew how to do was trot a circle. But big deal. I mean, he was green. He was a baby. But now it's almost impossible for me to not use spurs on him, and I've tried so many times for so long to bring him down into just a bare heel, but it doesn't really work, so I use little bumper spurs on him, and he responds beautifully to those, very softly to those. So you just put your heel into, you need to find where your horse's points are. If your horse doesn't have a point, then you need to figure out what's going to work for him and what's going to make this point different, I guess, from the rest. On Hagen, his point for his shoulders is it's kind of hard to say. I really have to use my calf for his shoulders because his point is actually about underneath his girth. It's not really behind it or under my stirrup or anything like that. It's kind of underneath his girth. So you need to be able to put your heel into this point on your horse's side and have your horse, doesn't need to be quickly, practice makes perfect. He will start picking up and, figuring it out. So put your heel into his side, and he needs to be able to move his shoulders away from your heel, his hind end away from your heel, and he needs to be able to side pass away from your heel. All 3 points are totally different. You may need to experiment and figure out on your horse where they are. And this comes into play a lot when you are asking your horse to move over, to keep off the barrel on his hind end or move his shoulders into the barrel because he's blowing it out. When it comes on poles, it plays a lot of help in asking your horse to push his leads out while he's weaving. The same thing with turning around a pole. I mean, those are actually very major important things in your pattern, and you and your horse should definitely know how to yield against a leg before you start a pattern. Another very important thing that I don't see much of often at all, unless you, in most people, I see it a lot in barrel racers or people who use trainers or who are higher up into the, I guess you would say, placing rank. I don't see it that much in people who aren't, I don't want to say this because I don't want to offend people, but it's actually it's kind of true. And if you don't apply to this, if this doesn't apply to you, then please don't take offense to it. But I don't see much of this, which is an extremely important thing in a lot of people who do play day or gaming or who run in the very low divisions of barrel racing. Don't take offense to it. It's not bad. Learning it can very well help you in getting to where you need to go, and I find it's very, very, very important. So when it comes to anything to do with your horse, most people say barrel racers, the only thing they really know how to do is ride in circles. And you know what? Dang right I do, because circles make the perfect pattern, whether you're going to agree with it or not. So everything in your pattern is maybe 25% speed and about 75% of your turns. If you don't have a good turn, you're not going to have a good pattern, your time's not going to be where you want it to be. So one of the most important things to having a nice turn is a proper circle. And a proper circle, believe it or not, is not as easy to achieve as you think it is. Most people that I see who bring these new horses onto a pattern, who are trying to train their horses for the pattern, do not understand or grasp the concept that your horse needs to know, it needs to be able to flex and bend. He needs to be able to round his body out throughout a circle. So I'm going to tell you how I do it. I don't really know how everybody achieves this, but this is how I do it. So you start out obviously at a walk for a horse who doesn't know how to do this, and you are going to put your heel into his side like you were asking for him to side pass, but you're going to bring your rein up, and you're going to lift up towards your belt buckle with your rein very softly. So the rein set against his neck sets a barrier that tells him not to overturn. He's not going to stretch around and look, and it's just going to tip his nose in slightly. It should just be a small tip in of the nose and responding to your foot to round his body out. Now for horses who do know this, like Hagen, whenever I put my heel into his side, he automatically tips his nose in. I don't have to ask him to tip his nose in anymore. And that creates a very nice round circle. And so you started at a walk, you'll figure out at a trot and at a canter, and everything starts to get a little bit different whenever you move it into a canter. Now, walking and trotting a circle is easier to do than cantering a nice circle. And the reason why is not many people understand that barrel horses work off their hind end, or they should. A lot of people struggle with horses that work off their front end, which for some horses it works for. Sarah Rose McDonald and her horse Bling. The horse works heavily off its front end, but it works for the horse. So it really just kind of depends. Now, when it comes to cantering a circle, the main thing is you want your horse to canter uphill. So you want his hind end underneath him. His inside hip really should be supporting the rotation of this circle. And you want to keep his front end moving. So how I ask Hagen to keep his front end up, because Hagen has a very bad habit of trying to drop his shoulder into almost anything, is I ask him for a wide circle, a very wide circle, and I'll slowly bring it down smaller. And I will do exactly what I told you to do on rounding your horse in the circle. I will pick up on the inside rein and apply my inside foot to the ribs and ask him to round. But as I start wiggling myself down into a smaller circle, I will jiggle that rein a little bit and kind of bump it up slightly. Do not yank up. You're going to bump it up very slightly. Now that foot that is rounding your horse, kind of, if they struggle with this, kind of take it and bump them slightly, or kind of just jiggle your heel into their side. And it's going to tell them to bump that shoulder up. And it's going to feel very awkward at first. It's not a feeling that it took me a while to get used to this feeling. I felt like Hagen was acting very strange, but when I had a trainer watch it, or I looked at a video, it was how it was exactly supposed to be. So you're going to kind of pull up slightly on the rein and bump him a little bit on your inside foot, ask him to lift that shoulder up, and he's going to they may exaggerate it, Hagen exaggerates it crazy amount. He really swings his shoulder into the air and then comes down, but as he's working it, you can really feel him reaching under with that hip, and that hip needs to support your turn. Now horses, of course, they're going to have their moments where they're just going to kind of drop their shoulder into it, and all you need to do is correct them. It's really nothing wrong. It's until the horse really learns how to canter uphill or use his hind end and everything like that, it's going to be very awkward for the horse. It's a whole new set of muscles that they're using than they are probably used to using. And so you just kind of got to ease them into it. I mean, you can't expect them to do perfect the first time. Cantering a circle that way, the very nice proper circle, for barrel racers, proper circles are totally different in the English and Western world. It's not easy to achieve, and it's not going to happen probably in the first day. One thing that I cannot stress enough at all is the animal that you are sitting on your saddle, that animal is your partner. And it has a brain, and it thinks, and it comprehends, and it wonders, and it tries. And The worst thing you can do is get frustrated at your horse, who is doing, most of the time horses are telling you, doing exactly what you tell them to. The worst thing you can do is get frustrated at this horse and get irritated and in his mouth or spurring him or spinning him in circles because he does not understand why you were doing that to him. Just like I am talking to you and I'm trying to help you understand certain things. Your body is the communication that helps your horse understand things. And so maybe if something isn't going as you plan, you need to sit back or have somebody video you or watch you and tell you what you are doing and why your horse is doing what he's doing. Most of the time a horse isn't going to do anything to just defy you. There's no reason why they would. So for example, when you are loping your horse for the first time around the pattern, the first time's never going to go right, ever. I mean, your horse can walk the perfect pattern, he can trot the perfect pattern, but loping the pattern for the first time is always kind of frustrating. Not really frustrating because you're excited to see what they can do, but it's kind of frustrating because you, in your heart, expect it to be better because they trotted and walked it so well. So, this is just an example. Your horse goes to lope the pattern for the first time and he doesn't move over, or he shoulders, or he blows out his turn, or something of that sort. You need to think and understand, why did he do this? Did I pick up on my rein right? Did I pick his shoulder up? Did I move him over right? Did I line him up properly? There is so much that plays into this, and you need to understand that your horse is thinking just as much as you are. Everything you are telling him to do, he is having to take that cue, think about it, process it, and try to put it into action. The worst thing you can do is get mad at your horse for trying for you. You just need to kind of step back, slow it down, and try again. That's all it takes. This horse is your partner. It is a partnership. It is not, oh my God, he didn't listen to me. He's such a butt. Like, no. You need to understand it's a partnership. And it's a team effort, and you need to think of what you are doing that's going to cause this.